Hi there, Simon Stokes here, Ableton Certified Trainer at Subsign Academy in Glasgow. And in this video, we're just going to get stuck right into the audio effects. This is normally where people go first when a new version of Ableton Live comes out. And obviously, we're lucky to have the world first look at Ableton Live 11. I've had it for a couple of weeks and been playing around with this. So let's just take a wee dive around what we've got here. Now, if you look at the audio effects section, you can see that it's been redesigned a little bit, where we've got different folders for our devices. We've got a drive folder here, dynamics for compressors and things like that, EQ and filter folder for those, a modulators folder, which we're going to come to. This is really cool. Performance folder, pitch and modulation, where we've got updated effects and new effects here as well. Time and space and utilities. So these are kind of categorized up to make it easy to kind of find your effects and different types of effects. And also I find that when you're looking for a delay type effect, when you open up the time and space folder, you may be more likely to choose one that you don't always go for, like grain delay or filter delay. But really the new killer audio effect for me is the hybrid reverb, which they've added. So I'll put this on to, let's put it onto here just now, just so we can hear what it does. Now, hybrid reverb is essentially two reverbs in one. We've got on the left-hand side a convolution type reverb, which is adding a space, an environment, a very realistic kind of room sound to whatever you put it on. So that's on the left, and if you put the blend right down, then you can hear just the convolution reverb on. So you can hear, I'm going to put headphones on for this. Sometimes easier to hear with just headphones on. So a very short reverb that we've got here. This is an actual recording of a space. You can see it says Ableton Studio backwards. Presumably this is Ableton Studio in Berlin. If we skip through different ones, you can hear everything from short spaces to kind of large room spaces to plates. Weird and fluttering kind of textures, which are interesting, and a whole folder of user ones where you can actually decide to bring in a sound, like let's say for example we'll come over here, let's find a ride cymbal. Okay, if we drag that into convolution reverb, it instantly creates a reverb from that sound, and you hear we can tweak it for all sorts of weird sound design possibilities. So that's what those textures are. They're kind of field recordings which have been brought in and used as reverbs. And you can do really strange stuff for that. Something else which I'm finding amazing with this is that you could take a really quick reverb like this, or maybe the intimate space one. And over here, almost every reverb has a pre-delay section where you can say, okay, I want to wait a certain amount of time before you hear the reverb coming back. Now, in hybrid reverb, we can actually set it to go rhythmically with the beat. So you see so that actually becomes rhythmic with the track, and you can add some feedback and get a reverb sound, an impulse response from a room doing a kind of echo, which means you can create all sorts of nice, interesting rhythmic and textural reverbs. Let's put it on a weirder kind of flute length. Really classy. That convolution reverb is really nice, just bringing in the best bits of the Max for Live convolution reverb and then combining them with an algorithmic reverb on the right hand side. So you see, if I bring the blend all the way around to this side, still using this pre-delay here. Maybe I'll show you that algorithmic one. Let's keep that. That sounded really cool with just the convolution. Maybe we'll put the algorithmic reverb on this sound. This is begging for a reverb. So we put hybrid reverb on. I'll put it right across to algorithmic so we can hear it. And at its core, this is quite a buttery sounding hall reverb, and when we play around with it a little bit, like we've got quartz reverb, we've got a shimmer reverb, which is a pitch shifting type reverb used for adding additional tones and texture layers to your sounds. Works really well on smoother sounds. We'll have a look at that in a minute maybe. And we've got Tides, which is a lovely sort of underwater modulating reverb, which sounds great, and Prism as well, which is another kind of experimental reverb. So these are really, really nice, excellent for playing around with, and all of them can be frozen, so we can create pads and textures with them. And the freeze function also has a nice, neat little bit to it where you can allow the input to just go into the freeze and create new textures. So that, you might hear it more in a hall one. Let's add a bit of input into it. So you can build up these huge sort of weird pad layers which you can maybe record out and sample, or you can just play with the size and do some mad sound design with them. Very strange, but very cool. And that's kind of what the algorithmic side is all about. Playing around, giving you nice buttery reverbs, but also allowing you to mangle them and play around. So that's what we've got built into this. Let's bring a bit of convolution back into here. We take a nice hall. So you can create really complex sounding reverbs. You can vintage them up a bit, like make them sound a bit older, a bit more hissy and crackly. And a whole bunch of other stuff. I mean, there's loads of parameters here. You can run these reverbs one after the other in series, or you can run them in parallel alongside each other, which gives different results as well. As well as having a full EQ built in that lets you boost parts of the reverb that you like to really get in and shape your sound. So, hybrid reverb. I mean, this is changing in the different versions that I've had of Live 11, even in the last few weeks. This has changed quite a lot. So we've got, I'm sure that we'll tweak a little bit more before it actually gets released to the public sometime early next year. But yeah, really, really nice. So that's our hybrid reverb. We've got a whole bunch of other effects in here. The chorus and ensemble, phaser and flanger. They've replaced the chorus device with a more comprehensive chorus device here that's capable of more interesting sounds, as well as sort of saturated warmth as well. That's actually quite cool. We've put it nice and slow. And loads of feedback possibilities for weirdness. Particularly, I love that in conjunction with the warmth control. You can create all sorts of strange stuff going on. The vibrato is nice as well. That sort of bends notes up and down, and it works quite well. It's quite a good addition, particularly on something like a pad. If I put chorus ensemble onto this pad, and let's try vibrato, you hear it bend in the pitch up and down. Maybe if we just take a little touch of that, and just slowly, you're going to get that wobbly kind of Boards of Canada type vibe that sounds really nice, particularly with a bit of warmth added to it as well, which really adds to the sound of it. So yeah, that's really nice. Phaser flanger, I'll show you. Maybe let's create a let's just add a quick 808 kit. Should be noted that the drum racks have been tweaked a little bit. They've got much better controls for push now, and for just nicer macro controls with the new layout of macros, which we're going to talk about in another video. But if we take this, let's just use push here. Sort it out. So there we go, we've got a nice little pattern. Let's put a bit of phaser flanger on it. And this is just going to give us the kind of classic phaser and flanger controls we had in Live 10, but just refined a little bit, added with this kind of nice saturated kind of warmth sound, which adds a much softer sound to the effects, which I really like. Inverted feedback controls, which are really nice too. And you can control with the flanger how far it flanges, like down to 20 milliseconds there. Any more than that, then you want to go for doubler, where it does a really kind of echoey, strange effect. So yeah, you can do all sorts of nice stuff with that. They've just been tweaked up slightly. Other things which have had a wee overhaul, Redux has been given a bit of an overhaul. It's much more possible to use it in a softer way now. So you've got a dry wet control where you just have a little bit of the kind of bit crushing, but not the whole thing. Which means you can crush a bit heavier, but still have some of the dry signal in there. We've also got a filter built into it, which can be either pre-reduxing, so it filters and then crunches, or post, where actually it sounds more like, it turns Redux into a kind of really crunchy digital sounding filter, which is great. So I've been loving using that on my productions for kind of when you want that digitally sort of sample rate reduction stuff going on. But lastly, my main joy from the audio effects section, the way that they've tweaked it up, is coming from this modulator section here. Now, I've always been a big fan of LFO, which was a Max for Live device, which you could add to any device. So say, for example, I could take my pad here. In fact, let's take these hats that I've put in. I'll stick a bit of, let's put hybrid reverb onto them, because that was sounding a wee bit dry. And then let's put a filter on. So we're going to find out EQ and filters, put that onto here. Now our, let's go for our modulator section here. So in modulators, we can put LFO on after filter. And it's just amazing to modulate things. You know, static sounds are boring sounds. Modulated sounds keep your ear interested for much longer. So if we've got an LFO here, we can just click map. We can choose what we want to map it to. And straight away, we're going to get modulating sounds. We can choose the depth, how much we want it to modulate, and the offset, as in which part of the filter do we want it to modulate around. So we could set it to just do it a little bit near the top of the filter frequency here. I can also map this up to other things. Let's try mapping it up to something in my hybrid reverb. Let's try mapping it up to decay over here. Let's try mapping it up to bass mult. Maybe even dry wet. Set the maximum of this. You can see that's just adding movement and modulation to the sounds, which we didn't have before. Absolutely love it. And even better than that, this shaper device that's been added to the audio effects section here lets you create rhythmic shapes. So you draw a shape here, you can use one of the preset shapes, and then you map it to control something. It can control anything, really, you can choose. So I could map this, for example, to my volume fader if I want. I could set it to go kind of rhythmically. You can choose it to do it just a little bit. Maybe let's let it go fast. Using the controls here, you can really shape what you want it to do. And you know, more than that, we could use another one. And let's just map this to my filter frequency here. But this time, it's going a bit much. Let's bring it down a bit. You can draw in what you want it to do. Turn that one off a sec so you can hear it better. Look at the shape that we're drawing here. So this is saying every quarter note, every beat, it's going to go back to the beginning of that shape and do it again. We could say you can go slower, faster, you can turn off snaps, you can add as many points as you want, or you can remove them just by holding shift and clicking on them. So you could use this as a sidechain if you want. Almost like, that's like a sidechain on the filter. See what that sounds like with everything else. That's nice. And the actual LFO on the filter is still doing its thing. We're just adding this extra movement. Let's just make it subtle. And that is just begging for a bit of hybrid reverb at the end as well. So yeah, amazing features. really easy to use, and they've brought those modulators right inside the audio effects section. So yeah, this is going to be one of the best things about Live 11, I think. There's a whole bunch of other devices to come. Like I said, this is a very early version. The devices that I've been using for the last few weeks are actually still changing and becoming what they're going to be. In fact, they just added a brand new algorithm to hybrid reverb in the last couple of days. And by the time that it's released, there's going to be a whole bunch new devices as well, inspired by nature devices, where you've got bouncing balls that can trigger notes and events. We're going to have particle-based effects and sound creation devices, and all sorts of other interesting things that are inspired by the world around us. So yeah, there's going to be a whole load of new stuff, and it's definitely going to be one of the things that's going to pull people across to Live 11. So like I said, this is not going to be out till next year. We've got loads more stuff to look at, so keep working through these videos and see what it's got to offer. And yeah, hope to catch up soon. Cheers.